Fallbrook, Valley Center up there where there's very large properties, and we could use 4 people helping up there.
You know, I'm almost 55, so I could become a senior gleaner
could.
in just a couple of months.
Until then, I created my own job.
Somebody's got to do quality control
I
around
know.
here. We're sending this to people all across the county.
Isn't that good? Nothing like right off the tree.
That is perfect.
The senior Gleaners are celebrating their 30th anniversary,
Look at those oranges.
which made me think of the first time I met the all-star Gleaner, Daryush Bastani, in 2021.
You're still gleaning.
I am still gleaning.
You have a gleaning habit.
It's in my heart. I can't give it up.
Daryush retired from Verizon Wireless and decided he just couldn't spend the rest of his life phoning it in.
I've never seen you without a smile on your face.
Well, you know, when I come in here, I see all these trees and all these fruits and all these people. This is fun.
Take it from Karen Whitler.
Get you out in the morning.
Gleaning is an early morning wake-up call for the heart.
It's a great activity because it's exercise, we meet great people, it's fun.
In the Zevely Zone,
I'm working hard, hardly working, because it's fun.
Jeff Zevely, CBS 8.
Work. I never know. Fingers crossed. But he's done 2 of these he's done to come out to talk to us twice, and he's always welcome, of course. And I think you can go on at this point. Hopefully, and so.
Video again.
Oh yeah, it's this one video. So we cover the entire county, San Diego County, and for those of you like from the East Coast especially, we're not quite as big as the county is in the state of Connecticut. So we have 4,200 square miles, and the state of Connecticut has about 4,800 square miles. Our population is 3.3 million people across the county, and Connecticut is 3.7. So it's a good way to kind of show the comparison. We are divided into 5 districts, and each district is led by a volunteer district leader. So we have the far north, which is, for those of you around here, this is Fallbrook and Bonsall, up near the border of the other counties. They're just north of us. And then we have North County, which is the largest of our districts. It has still large properties with a lot of trees, and it has the most volunteers. We have about 70 volunteers that are active in the North County. The Central Claremont district is the more urban corridor. So you're in that right now. So it's the Claremont, it's downtown, it's out by San Diego State, it's called the Central District. And then we have East County, which is La Mesa, El Cajon, it's more urban. These have more trees. And then the far south, South County, which is it's interesting because there used to be a lot of, especially lemon trees in the South County. There was a lot of agriculture, and then as they developed it for residences, unlike some of the other areas to the north that they kept trees, these they kind of flattened. So it seems to me that there's fewer properties that are that have to grow less citrus or have available for us to glean. So total combined. So this is just what we call the picking. So this is just off of the trees picking these quantities that I'm showing that are in pound. So we also do grocery pickups, grocery stores. So when you combine the 2 together, and this is our total for 2025. It was 419,000 pounds we did between the 2 of them, and it's about 175,000 of that is coming from grocery stores. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So this one. So these, I don't know if you can see these numbers, but this shows our what we have really good records for. So we've been around since 1994. Some of the early days would have been records keeping, even, I mean, that Excel was kind of, I think it was Lotus 1, 2, 3, but it was French, today, right? Some of those records, I don't know where they are, but I can verify since 2019 the quantities that have been gleaned, and this is including the groceries. So what happens if we were at 161,000 pounds in 2019 and 140 went down in 2020, and of course that was COVID. So this part of the country, our gleaning season starts very late in the year, maybe like December, November, with persimmons and avocado and some of those, but really most of it, the bulk of it is citrus. And it's going to happen January through March. So luckily in 2020, we'd actually kind of gotten through the bulk of our season until they shut everything down. We did see our youth being interviewed, we had a mask on. So we continued to glean, but of course there was nothing at first. But then we eventually started gleaning again. All the gleaners wore masks. We did, the distancing we had to do. And so it picked up again in 2021, 239 pounds. It down again, you'll see in 2023, if you can see those number 168, we had quarantine issues in California. And those who were yesterday at the meeting for the regional meetings, we had people come in to talk to us about that. And the Cillian test that does the HLV virus, that hit us badly in 2023 because we just stopped gleaning. I think you heard when we were listening to the video from before, so we didn't know what to do, and then we couldn't advise us to do anything. So eventually, the next year, we signed agreements with the county that said that we leave all the stems and the leaves behind, and then when we transport the freshly picked fruit for us, and it is a citrus virus, that we have either enclosed in a vehicle or we have tarps. We bought tarps and tie downs for people who help us transport the fruit. And everybody's a volunteer in this too. So we do own two vans. A lot of our gleaners might have, they might have a Prius that they can put down the seeds so they can put their fruit in, or they might have a pickup truck. Now that's exposed. We have to cover everything with tarps. And unfortunately, that virus is spreading, and every time it spreads, we get a new quarantine area. We signed an agreement. We just follow that practice regardless if we're actually in the quarantine zone or out, just to make sure that we're covered. So we're just careful about that. Last year, as I said, 419,000 pounds was the big record breaker for us. This year is going to be lower because we have a new quarantine. So we have the Mexican fruit fly, and it is it was called, March 5th, I think is the date that they said, okay, it's quarantine. And we can't, there's no mitigating things to do. We can't cover the fruit or anything because the fly lives within the fruit. We can't really see it until the fruit is gone. So it's the quarantine area is headquartered, goes through local in La Mesa, and it goes out, the radius that goes out around is 4.5 miles. It covers square miles, 83 square miles, which is a ton out of the size of our county, except it happens to hit in some crucial areas. So it's hitting us in our East County, our South County, and our Central area. So I know our numbers, I'm just pulling the numbers for the first quarter. They're very comparable to last year's first quarter numbers because we did get, it's going to go down. We just know it, but there's not much we can do about it. So we are always careful to abide by what we have to abide by. And hopefully, if there are no more Mexican fruit flies found, then this current quarantine will end at the end of September. Cross your fingers. And so we'll probably be done with it before we start our next season later in the fall. So that's what we're hoping for. Best case scenario. Okay, so we do glean from grocery stores, and there are people in this room that know a whole lot more about this than I do. As far as SB 1383, and it's a California state law, and there's actually two parts of it. There's another part about keeping recovering organic material and keeping it out of the landfill. But this is the edible food recovery to rescue at least 20% of edible food that's currently that otherwise would be thrown away to keep people. This was started in 2016 and it was a 10-year measurement. So which I think they're doing the analysis right now. I think we probably met this one as a state because it's relatively easy as opposed to the organic material that a lot of the communities, as I understand it, don't have a way to process. But so our food, what we do here with the food, and those of you who went to the field trip yesterday, we went to the Sandy Food Bank. We're one of their partners in this, as is Food is Good. And so we have senior volunteers. Everybody's a senior. They go on a regular route and they go to grocery stores and they pick up the food and then they immediately go and transport it to the food pantries or the distribution partners. It does not go back to the food bank. It goes right straight out. The 175,000 pounds is actually an understatement because we have volunteers that are also doing this for other large nonprofits. So people assisting the homeless path is a big one. And we participated in the food rescue that's going for them, as well as like Fallbrook Food Pantry is another big one. It's a large food pantry in the northern part of the county. And so one of our volunteers, once a week, he drives for them and he picks up food. So we own 2 vans, and but people are doing this in their regular cars as well. And there's, like I said, there's people who know a lot more about SB 1383 than I do. So if you're one, I can look at Karen and say, you know. Dave DiDonato is speaking tomorrow, and he can also talk about this. I show this picture because you see sometimes the photos of these big amounts of, you know, thousands of pounds of whatever it is. And a lot of what we do are in backyard with 1 or a couple of trees. So these happen to be in the South Bay. And you know, we use the same thing you guys not doing to you. We use the pickers, and then we have some ladders, and so it stays within a close proximity to wherever it's picked. So it's not all big properties. The big properties tend to be in the North County or the far North County. And we are almost all volunteers. When I say almost, because we have a handful of people who run, like me. But so in 2025, we had, I keep getting too close. 2025, we had 13 leaders. So they were either district leaders or they helped the district leaders. We had, now yesterday I was telling somebody we had 519 volunteers. I was wrong. It's 207 volunteers who had gleaned at least once in 2025. We have 518 people in our database, but you know, as everybody's older, as they get older, they may be less inclined to go do this, they move out of town, but we keep them in our database just to preserve the records that we have. The total combined hours for these 200 people is 7,582 hours, and this is in 2025. We don't, so the Gleaners tend to go out once or maybe twice a week for a couple hours. So, and if we're, you know, we do what we can in a couple weeks, couple hours, but they're volunteers and they're senior volunteers. And so we don't try to get every single thing off of every single tree. We might go back to a property a couple of times just to make sure that, you know, we do as best as we can with that. But so we don't do 8-hour days. They're not employees, they're volunteers, and they're all 55 and older. We have 9 board members. As I mentioned, to be a board member, you don't have to be 55. So 2 of the 9 are not over 55, and they work full-time jobs in addition to being our board members. Of our board members, 5 are active Gleaners, so which is great because they bring the real experience to them when we discuss that with the board. And the other 4 are not. So 9 volunteers there. Again, they're all volunteers. And then we have 2 staff. I'm a part-time general manager, so I work about 15 hours a week, roughly. Just enough stress, not too much. Yeah. And then we have an administrator, and she depends on the busy season. She might work 10. This time of year, we're kind of dying down, so she might work 5. So, and that's the extent of our staff. Okay, next. So our funding almost all, it's pretty much all private donations. We get a handful of grants, not that many, but we get a few. We do have some merchandise sales. So see people in the Senior Gleaners shirts. So we have a volunteer, she makes them and then we sell them. So that's a little bit of merchandise sales that come through there. We occasionally have a contract right now with this, with one of the cities that they pay us just a report to them on how we're doing in their particular city. So we get a little bit of that, not too much. We don't charge for our services. It's totally free to the homeowner. We hope that they will, you know, give us a donation in exchange, but we don't require it. It's free. And what we do, as was mentioned, I think by you, is that at the end of the year, we send them a tax letter to say, okay, we gleaned 500 pounds of oranges, as specific as it can be, and then they can take the market rate of whatever that produce is and write it off in their tax. So we've never quantified, and that's an interesting idea, how much in total that is valued that we're giving, that's, you know, providing back as taxes. So that's something for me to think about. And I think, is there any more? Oh, I know. Oh, next slide. Why do we do it? We do it the same reason you all do it. It's because, you can go, next slide. It's mostly food insecurity. So it's a lack of access to enough food for an active and healthy healthy life, just like what he was saying about the nutrition. It's kind of like you can eat a lot, but has to be like something healthy and worthwhile for you to eat. And so this is predominantly, I think, the reason people do it, but it's also the camaraderie and the fun, and they get to know each other. They work in districts, so the same people tend to go out together, and they might carpool, they go out for breakfast or brunch afterwards. So it's also a social thing, keeps them busy and working, and it is meaningful. They know that they're giving back to the community. Okay, next. I'm going to read these to you too, because, so is Joseph Kendrick here yet? Okay. Okay, Joseph Kendrick is going to be talking this afternoon, and the figures here come from the San Diego Hunger Coalition, and he's from that organization. So 1 in 4 San Diegans, we're talking the county now, is food insecure at any point in time. So that equates to 842,000 people based on our population of 3.3 million people. And that can include 216,000 children and 172,000 older adults. So something that really belongs to all of us. And then food insecurity among Black and Hispanic people is 2 times that which it is for the white population. And that's probably similar to anywhere in the country, I would think. So the food pantries, the churches, with about 75 distribution partners around the county, they're, lifeline to a lot of these people. And it's been mentioned before that, there's cutting funding and there's all sorts of new work requirements to get food assistance. And it just makes it just so much more important. And we're glad that we're able to help in some fashion. Okay, next one. Okay, now, I did not take a lot of time. We have plenty of time for questions, or I get you back on schedule. So do we have any questions? Okay, Kathy.
As a senior and a senior with a disability, how do you make sure that your seniors are living safely? Because some of us can't lift anymore, but climbing a ladder is a challenge.
We would never have somebody climb a ladder who doesn't think they should be climbing a ladder. Some of the properties, we get an idea of the kind of property is, if it's flat, if it's sloped. We have a variety of people that can lean in different ways. So I put it back on, like, Darius could raise his hand, and he can probably talk about more about this in his session about volunteering. But the Gleaner, when we get new volunteers, they do need to know they're out there on, they're on land. So it's not sidewalks and stuff. They could be a grocery rescue for us and possibly just drive, versus actually getting out there in the orchards. Most of our volunteers, I would say, are pretty healthy and pretty active. And if they're not already, it probably doesn't call to them to do this kind of work, I would think.
You want to elaborate a little bit, or should I talk about it when we do it at the
Yeah, we'll do it in the afternoon.
You have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious about your record keeping practices, given databases.
We do. We're using GleanWeb right now. And GleanWeb is, if any of you are using GleanWeb, Dick, who wrote GleanWeb, he's retiring. So he's like not going to do GleanWeb anymore. We're looking at other software packages. We're looking at Common Fruit, which is going to be presenting, I think, later today or tomorrow. So you might want to listen to them. But I think the advantage of them, and we haven't made this decision or anything, but is that they are gleaners, and that they wrote this software, specifically for gleaning organization. Dick, it's really a very robust system, and he doesn't charge us for it. So this is going to be a surprise. We're going to have to actually pay for our software databases, but he's been maintaining this for a number of years, and so it's quite robust. We have a lot of data on the pounds gleaned and what kind of fruit it was, how the pounds per property. So when they get ready to go to a new property, they can say, okay, last year it was 2,000 pounds. We need a lot of volunteers to help with this one. Or it was 1 tree and we might get a couple hundred pounds. We only need 1 or 2 people to go out there, kind of thing. So that data is all in there. And all the data about volunteering is all in there. And so it's very nice for me because I have such a place that I can pull stuff up. We have quarterly board meetings. So I pull the gleaning report once a quarter and I compare it, this year to last year. And we have that data that goes back reliably to 2019 or some in 2018, but 2019 so far. Okay, I think we're done with time. I'm surprised, but thank you. I'm around, and Darius is going to do the presentation this afternoon. Thank you very much.